Welcome to This Commerce Life. We are an unscripted podcast dedicated to small businesses and entrepreneurs in the retail and consumer packaged goods space in Canada and the United States.
I'm Phil Chang, co-host and co-founder.
And I'm Kenny Benucci, co-host and co-founder of This Commerce Life.
Our love is the journey to retail, and our passion is sharing that with you every week.
There you go. Oh, recording in progress.
Recording in progress.
Let's got it. Say got it.
Got it.
Got it.
So it's super funny. So somebody just came to the door. It's a local city council, and my husband always hates answering the door, and I just happen to be there. And she's like, "Do you have any, issues that you want to talk about?" I was like, "No, not really." And then I just started going off. And let me tell you about commercial leasing rates in downtown Victoria.
Oh no. Oh no, you came to the wrong door, lady.
Yeah.
Oh no, she was like,
Wrong
"Oh,
door.
these are great points. Oh my God, this is awesome. I'm gonna call you
my
back." And I was
gosh.
like, "Yeah." And I'm like, "I gotta go. I have to go, actually."
I'm going to go complain about this on a podcast and have total support from the people on the podcast.
I know this
Bar.
this is exactly it. Oh my goodness, what a ride. Anyway,
Oh my gosh.
hi, nice to meet you guys.
It
You
is
too.
nice to meet you
Yeah, it's
too.
very nice to meet you.
Thank you for
my gosh.
doing this so quickly, because I know that Phil originally was like, it's gonna be September. And I'm like, okay. That's
We
totally fine.
I won't lie, like we're booked up till
Good for
end
you.
of it's
Yeah,
kind of
pretty much end of July.
crazy. It's kind of insane, and
As you should be. I mean, to be able to do that is pretty amazing. Since I kind of met you guys a couple weeks ago, I've been like binging. Yeah,
Thank you.
I have
That's-
listened.
we're really sorry.
Yeah, I don't know if that's
Years
sad
Now
or
you've
if that's,
heard us in your
I don't
ear
know.
like all this time, and then you're gonna
Wow.
spend time with us again.
No, I think
Blood
it's
for
you know
punishment.
what, it's been so awesome. God, you guys have some amazing guests, absolutely amazing guests, and
Thank
I
you.
was like,
Yeah.
wow, this is. To give you a bit of background, my husband was a radio producer, a news and radio producer. He worked for CKNW and CBC in Vancouver,
Awesome.
and
Cool.
I actually also have a background in
Yeah.
broadcasting. So it's one of those funny things that you kind of you start listening to somebody else.
Isn't that
and
funny?
a little few things kind of come up, and it's just like, okay, well, that would be good. But ultimately, I love your interviewing style,
Oh,
and
thank you.
your guests are amazing. Like,
Thank you.
We have
That's
some
very
really
I
cool
nice.
guests.
actually,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
actually walked away and went, "Oh my God, no, I'm not worthy. Like, I'm seriously not."
No, are you joking?
And it's so
Okay,
strange. You
so
keep
first of
saying
all,
that. You've said that
no,
in
yeah.
written and verbally
Yeah.
now, and it's funny, not funny, because
Yeah.
your story. I can't wait to hear it. But
Yeah.
it sort of bothers me a little bit because I've tried the candies, are fantastic.
Oh my God, the
we were
candies are
so
delicious.
excited to have you on just to talk
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
because sometimes
So-
things
so-
don't go perfect.
So
and, you know,
I unboxed your candies with the kids. So
The
the
gummies
entire
are awesome.
family,
and you
all
got-
5 of
and
us.
Phil, you got different things.
I do. I got all
I
sorts of.
told him that. He said,
oh
"Would
my
you try the
gosh.
cola?" Something. I said, "I didn't get no cola."
Oh my God, the cola. I'm not even a soda drinker. Like,
Yeah.
I don't drink pop,
Yeah, neither
but
do I.
but oh my gosh,
Yeah.
the soda gummies, and then the taffy.
The taffy is, honest to God, my favorite product ever. It's vegan taffy
is,
because people
yeah.
kept bugging me about, how come nothing you make is vegan? And I'm just like, well, because it's freaking, no offense, it's easier to do with gelatin.
Absolutely.
and
Yeah,
I
yeah,
do
yeah, yeah.
organic gelatin,
Yeah.
and it has a better shelf life, and blah blah blah. And so I ended up creating this vegan taffy, and
It's delicious.
I have people emailing me from the States saying, "Oh my God, somebody brought it back for me. How come I can't buy it?" Blah blah blah. And it's one of the things that, as I'm talking to prospective buyers, I'm like, listen, this is a winning product. The taffy industry alone is the most bizarre, crazy industry ever. It's super funny. As I started
Really?
digging down into
Yeah.
it to look for a co-packer. So we're going to kind of jump all over the place, but I'll give you this story first. So last year I tried looking for a co-packer just for the taffy line, because I got approached by 2 huge distributors and asking, we'd love to carry the taffy. And one of them actually came to me and said, listen, one of our main taffy supplier here in the States is no longer supplying us. And I was like, oh, that's kind of interesting because I know the two that make it. So the deal is the two big manufacturers, they pretty much supply the world, are both based in Utah. And
Right.
they're both based like a block away from each other. And they are warring Mormon families.
Oh.
So
how cool is that?
It's super cool. So
that's like a whole podcast on its own.
Oh
Like,
my
I know.
Lord, seriously.
Exactly. And so when you look at like the, you look at the management structure, you're like, oh, they all have the last name. Okay, this is really interesting. And they're like, so basically they were started around the same time. I think I have a feeling that the two of them were started together and then they separated at one point, like within 5 or 10 years of each other. And so these are the two major manufacturers for all saltwater taffy in the world. And one of them bought Wholesome Sweets last year. And so Wholesome Sweets actually purchased Surf Sweets prior to that. So Surf Sweets is like the allergy-friendly candy that you can find around. And so this latest acquisition from this one saltwater taffy of Wholesome happened right before the pandemic. And basically their production has blown apart because of the pandemic. So this distributor said, we don't know what's going on, but we have a feeling they've overextended themselves. And they're no longer distributing everything but one saltwater taffy flavor.
Seriously.
Yeah. And so the other interesting part of it is that the other one, they're different recipes. The other one is not a vegan saltwater taffy. So the thing that makes my products unique is that for that particular product is that it's vegan, but beyond that is that it is a nut-free, peanut-free, gluten-free facility. And to try and do that and find a distributor that can actually, or not a distributor, a co-packer to be able to produce within those constraints is virtually impossible.
Really difficult. Yeah.
It's virtually
so what's with
impossible.
why only two though? Like why is it? There's something like is it something that
it's because
Utah has that nobody else has? Like
yeah,
is it that specific? What is it?
I know it's just the way it is. It's like ultimately what it comes down to, which is the big obstacle that I'm dealing with right now, is to scale up any kind of candy manufacturing is really expensive. The equipment that everybody uses is literally 100 years old. These are old pieces of equipment. So when you go to, like, we all think about the saltwater taffy machine, right? That we see on the boardwalk and you walk along and you see it pulling it.
But that's it? Like that's
literally what they use. That's literally what they still use. And so all these machines are traded around the world. It's absolutely fascinating. The candy industry is super fascinating. It's same with caramel wrappers. They are like the caramel wrapper that I would ideally want is called a Fork Rose 22B. And they refurbish them, eating candy.
Specifically eating your candy because it's freaking. So can I just say, I don't eat caramel. Not at all, except for your caramel.
I know they're really.
This box is half empty because of you.
I had to put them away
because
it was the gummies.
Yeah. And everybody is slightly different, right?
I can't stop chewing them. I couldn't stop. Like I was getting to the point. I'm thinking this is actually. I'm noticed home and I'm embarrassed. I'm thinking this is ridiculous. So I put them on the roundabout. It's because it's just stupid. I think this. I don't know because they're quasi addictive, and I don't know. I don't even know what it was. Like I'm not too sure if I just loved the texture. Yeah. If I just loved the flavor. I think
the flavor.
It was
for
weird,
me. It's
though. Like
out
I
and out
just
the flavor.
Like
the salt,
gummies anyway.
the caramels with the I have the Pacific sea salt caramel, and it's just the texture of it. It pops. It's not sloppy the way the rest of the caramels are.
Yeah.
Right,
yeah.
and then the flavor just pops.
It's a full fat, right? In order to get that consistency, right?
I don't want to hear that part of it.
I know I'm getting organic milk and I'm getting organic butter, so it's a full fat. And that full fat makes a massive difference. And so
essentially I need to go run another lap tonight.
Exactly. You really do.
Don't worry about it. It's good fat.
But
just move on.
It is. Exactly. And you know what? It's all about only having so many. Everybody says to me, you need to have more in a package. I'm like, no, it's the point of enjoying the pieces that you have.
Yeah.
Exactly.
100%.
I'm not
100%.
It's never about overconsumption. And
it should be leaving you wanting more. You know what? And then tomorrow you go back into them. Like just relax. You don't have to eat a bucket. You know, they're just tasty. I told yeah, wow. I
So-
can't still kind of perplexed at the it's just that there's nobody either just I mean, sometimes you don't have to reinvent the wheel. If the machine works, the machines work. But you
Yeah.
think that they're, I guess maybe it's just not, I
They're
guess nobody
bigger-
thinks of going into taffy.
There's bigger lines, but no, when it comes to taffy's taffy.
It's just what it is, right? It's just
It
that
is just what it
old-
is. It's just a puller, and then it's typically a batch roller. It's a puller, it's a batch roller, and then it's these old beautiful machines that were originated out of the US and UK, and they have newer versions, but they're huge and they're not as beautiful as these old things. But the problem is that each piece of the machinery is about $40,000 US.
I was going to ask you, like, is it the cost of the machine
It
that's?
is. It is.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I mean, ultimately, for me to scale up one line, the caramels line, I'm looking at about 150,000 just in machinery. And I need a bigger space. I don't know if you guys read it, but I'm in a 365 square foot kitchen. One of the things,
small.
it's so small. And so that's that. In 2019, I reached my capacity, and I knew it. And I've been looking everywhere for something that was better, but it's always that toss up of, do you build out the kitchen or do you buy the machinery?
Yeah.
To do both of them is just this enormous financial task. And I just kind of I've gotten to a point where, and so I've managed without it, but I've worked myself into the ground because of it. I never expected this. I didn't come from listening to so many of your super smart people that you guys have had on. And I just sort of go, oh my God, if I'd known this, if I'd known that. But ultimately, I also wouldn't trade anything that I've done.
Right.
Because I have been smart about it. I've actually been, I've enjoyed every moment of it. I just know that the next phase is a phase that I financially can't take on. And so I'm okay with letting it go because of that. I've had an amazing ride. Absolutely amazing ride.
Okay, well, segue back.
Yeah.
Phil, do the introduction. We'll get it going. We'll go back to the
gosh.
history part, and then
If you guys
I'm
aren't
dying to
sitting
hear
on
this
the edge
goes.
already, holy crap! So
Wow.
we have Jeanette Miller on, who is the chief candy maker at Toot to Sweet Confections. She had a retail store, which I guess you've got it till September.
I've got
right?
it till September. Yep.
So if you're out in Victoria, you should. Is it in Victoria? It is, right?
It is, and
Yeah.
it's the sweetest, gorgeous little shop in the world. Yeah.
Where are
it's
you? Downtown?
amazing. I am right downtown on the edge of Chinatown in this beautiful
Okay.
heritage building. Yeah, it's
Okay.
absolutely beautiful. Yeah.
Okay. Nice
Must have-
spot.
Yeah.
Well,
good traffic.
amazing. I couldn't have gotten anything
Good
better. And
traffic.
everybody that comes in goes, "Oh my God, this is like," yeah, I just get compliments constantly every day, every single day. Yeah.
Okay.
So
Well,
so we've got Jeanette on, and it's not it's an amazing story that we are looking forward to hearing, but it's a little bit different, right? We've talked a lot about businesses that are trying to scale. Jeanette's gonna do something different. So I'm gonna stop the intro there because we've already talked a good chunk of this stuff, but would love to kind of like hear your story, and then let's
pre-candy even, and the why candy.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
it's
all
a
of
weird.
it.
Yeah, that's ultimately always comes up of going, why candy? Like, I don't. Where did that come from? So, yeah, it was not what I expected. I have a communications background. I actually studied what's called applied communications way back. And I majored in print production. And that's relevant because as we'll kind of go forward. So what ended up happening was I graduated from that, got a diploma, and funny enough, started working in film production. I was working on commercials in Vancouver and did that. And then I landed my first job. I worked actually for the Vancouver Film Festival. And in that role, what I did is I was doing everything kind of what they call kind of community wise. I did all the advertising. I did media sponsorships, but I did primarily is with a lot of community outreach. So my job was to get bums and seats to all of the harder to sell films. So what I did is I did a lot of community outreach and promotions with multicultural media. I managed a graphic designer and worked with translators and did everything. And I did that 4 consecutive contracts in a row. And so the big thing with festivals is that you actually typically go from contract to contract. And so some people go from film contract to the film festival contract to the jazz festival contract, and you kind of go around the festival circuit.
Right.
And they're hard jobs. You are working 24/7 for months and months in a row. It's just the way that festivals are.
It's a finite grind too, right? Like because you've got an ending.
Yep.
There's a very definitive measurement of
it's
whether you did good or not, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
It's a real crunch time. Like when it's crunch, you got to go, and it doesn't matter what hours you're putting in. Like you just go.
Yeah.
From there, I actually, in between contracts, I actually worked for a hair care manufacturer. I actually, in addition to my applied communication diploma, I actually got a marketing diploma at the same time I was doing film festival stuff. So that's kind of where I learned sales and strategy and that whole bigger picture of what marketing was. Because the thing that applied communication gave me was understanding about broadcast mediums. And the marketing side of it kind of gave you that bigger perspective as to why consumers do what they do. So in between film festival contracts, I actually had a job as a marketing manager for a hair care manufacturer in Vancouver. And there I actually managed all their collateral, all their packaging, advertising, trade shows. I got to understand what the difference between distributor and wholesalers and all that kind of side of things.
Got right into it.
I got right into it. And it was a great experience. And that then from there actually led me back into the film world, which is I worked for Canada's largest film distributor called Alliance Atlantis and Odeon Films. Kenny would know of Alliance Atlantis because they used to own the Fifth Avenue Cinemas. Yep. I actually worked above the Fifth Avenue Cinemas. I was the only employee that was outside of the Toronto office. So I did remote before remote was a remote thing. And so my job was to, again, generate word of mouth and work with the media. And so this is where I really learned the publicity trade and doing events and publicity stunts and really working on a grassroots level, understanding who the target audience for every single film was and how to get those bums and seats. In the film industry, the big sales happen. You have to, the first weekend is the hugest time period. If you don't hit a certain threshold within the first weekend of sales, they'll pull your film out of the the cinemas.
Right.
So it's all about generating of that word of mouth right up until that point, so that you could get that first weekend sales in hopes that it would actually get a little bit of a run. From there, I got pregnant because I actually had a great mat leave program and moved to Victoria. And I started my own PR company. And again, I was doing remote when remote did not exist. I did not tell anybody that I was in Victoria. I have a Vancouver cell phone number. I would go to meetings, just tell them I'd meet in downtown Vancouver somewhere, and they'd have no clue that I just traveled from Victoria on the float plane.
Oh my gosh. Okay. That's a whole different kind of commute, no?
Totally different commute.
Yeah.
Nice commute.
It was a great commute.
It's a lovely commute.
Unless the planes are getting canceled because
if the ceiling's too low because they need to see, they got to fly by sight, not instrument.
And
I've had
as a person who gets kind of motion sickness, it was sometimes not the best flights in the world. But I had some really great contracts. I got to work with a really huge variety of clients. But the big thing that ended up happening was that I ended up working a lot publicity. Like it was straight about getting, earning media coverage. And I was getting clients, all sorts of different clients across the board, getting national coverage. And it was the start of social media. And so it was the start of who owns social media, right? Is it the publicist that owns the social media, or is it the marketing person that owns social media? And I started doing because you start bidding on all these projects and all these kind of clients, I started reading some interesting things about refining your services. And I actually ended up refining my services to the mom market. So what I understood is that I worked off what's called a scarcity model, which is basically the fewer options that you have, the higher the value is.
Right.
And so I refined it to the mom market, and I was the first PR agency to focus on the mom market. And what that led me down was a lot of mom blogger outreach, but it also led me to some really interesting contracts. Like I worked with it's a shaken baby syndrome organization out of the Children's Hospital. They were actually based in Utah. Funny enough, weird Utah connection.
Utah.
I know.
Like, seriously.
Utah connection. And we did a thing. It's called the Period of Purple Crying. And it's about to prevent shaken baby syndrome. And at that point, I was starting to train that organization on how to do social media, how to incorporate into their organizations. I worked with franchises that did the same thing. And along the way, I ended up picking up this contract for the Vancouver Children's Festival. And I was already starting to, at that point, kind of getting a little bit, I don't know, not tired of marketing, but I was really tired of just doing campaign after campaign after campaign. And I was feeling like it was the same old, and I wasn't getting challenged enough. And I wanted to go deeper into clients, and it was a harder sell to get in. And the Children's Festival allowed me to actually do a contract with them. And then they actually hired me as their marketing manager. And at that point, I started a little bit of a test kitchen in my house as I was starting to look at different options of what could I do next? If I decided to leave marketing and PR, what could I do next? And I was making apple chips, and I was doing embroidery. I was doing all sorts of weird things. And really what it came down to is I always remembered this course that I'd taken way back in BCIT, which was the difference between selling a service and selling a product. And I was really tired of selling a service, and I wanted to sell a product. So I was like, okay, so how do I do this? How do I create a product? And I stumbled across organic cotton candy at the Children's Festival. And I was like, what the hell is organic cotton? Like, what does that even mean? And I spent the whole ferry ride home digging deep, and it led me down into Butter Bakery's marshmallows and how they built up this business in the States. And I'm like, how hard would it be to make marshmallows? And I came home and I bought a KitchenAid mixer. Next thing I know, I'm making marshmallows. And next thing I know, I'm finding candy books. And I'm realizing, well, how hard is it to make caramels? And how is it hard to make And I was making all sorts of things. My family were just like, oh my God, and I was still doing the Children's Festival at the same time. And I thought, well, let's try a farmer's market. Let's see what happens if this is even a thing. Like, could I even sell this? And so I did the following farmer's market and discovered, yeah, people loved it. And what ultimately came down was I listened to my friends. I should never listen to my friends. And they were like, there's nobody out there like this. There's nobody. You would make a stack of money if you did all these shows. And all my friends were going to like the one of a kind shows and all these big shows. And they're like, you would make a stack. And I was like, okay. So I started looking for a commercial kitchen. And a commercial kitchen was really hard to find at that time.
Those friends, eh? Stacks and stacks of money. I can see it. Just you won't even know what to do with it all. Yeah. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. Thanks, friends.
I know. Exactly. So I ended up finding, it was weird, this weird serendipity. I literally was in my head going, okay, I just need a small kitchen. I would love it by a school. It needs to be flexible. Part of the thing for me was that we needed flexibility in my family. My husband works for media relations for government, and it's a heavy duty job. And at the time, my parents were both alive. They needed caring. I had young kids. I needed a job that was going to be flexible, and going back into the workforce and doing a 9-to-5 job was just
Right.
not a good option for me
Mhm.
at that time. And so I figured this would be a great option. And it happened that I found a commercial kitchen that was literally kitty corner to my youngest's elementary school. And it was 365 square feet. And it was below this house, and there was a bakery next door. And I just went, okay,
Perfect.
perfect, let's try this. So going back to like what my background is, I knew instantly what I was already working on, what my marketing plan was going to be. And I did not want to go down the grocery route. I knew what that was going to require. I knew that, I wasn't interested in going the listing fees. I wasn't interested in working with a distributor. I was going after a women's market.
Right.
And I was going after a gift market. And that, in order to do that, along with the quality of ingredients, I was going to make a premium product. I needed to have premium packaging. So I knew that I was putting all my bets basically into the packaging. And that's where my whole, working for the hair care company kind of came in, as I understood what that was going to take, what those costs were going to be like. And I was just going to dive deep into it. And so my big first investment was going right down deep into, once I figured out what the products were going to be, I went down deep and just, okay, we're going into it. And I bought a lot of packaging and then just started building. So I started out with farmers markets. I started selling at craft shows, picked up a few wholesalers,
Yeah.
kind of local, but Victoria's a funny market.
Yeah.
So I found that it was people who used to live in Victoria who now own retail stores at other places
Right.
that were actually more supportive than the Victoria retail
Right.
stores. Kind of funny. But I did have some connections. I actually made a candy line for Silk Road Tea. And so they carried it in both the Victoria and Vancouver store. That helped. And then the gift box world kind of opened up. So I would say a good 50% of my customer base in terms of who I wholesale to are gift boxes.
Seriously.
Yeah.
Wow.
Gift stores.
Right.
Yeah, it's
That makes a lot of sense to me, though.
it's a great market.
Yeah.
It's a
fantastic.
really good market, and I try and encourage a lot of people to go down it, and they're just like, I just can't crack
It's
the
it's
nut.
just it's a lesser traveled path, and quite honestly, it's not very clear where you go. Like the retailer path, it's tried and true, and you've got a million people that kind
It's
of
relatively
know.
easy. There's a lot of people that can help you out.
You know where you're going, but you also know what it
Yep.
looks like for the most
Right.
part, right? But this path that you followed is definitely untraditional, right? And,
Yeah.
and it's hard to follow,
in,
right? Like
in the food sector. And so
Yeah.
that's where I really
Yeah.
align myself. So what I did is I would actually pick non-food products. So I pick a soap company that I really
Right.
liked, or an aromatherapy company I really liked, and I would just go through their retailer list. And I would just start targeting all of those retailers and going, hi, I have a food company. And this is, and in the beginning, it was interesting. It's changed so much in the past 7 years. A lot of them weren't very sure about carrying a food product. They really hadn't done it before. And now it's like even those same retailers or new ones that pop up, they're just like, oh, we started carrying this one and we couldn't believe how well it sold. And it's like, yeah, because they weren't really connecting the dots that food was actually a gift.
Yeah.
And,
sure.
And it's experiential. It's highly experiential.
Totally.
Like it's
Totally.
And
Yeah.
ultimately it's consumable a lot quicker. So it was interesting there's all these sort of quirks about it. So one of the companies I always looked to was Saxon Chocolates, because this is the route that Saxon Chocolates took, right? Is they purely went down that gift market. And it's a huge market, both in the States and the US. But what I found really frustrating was really interesting is that some of the shows in Canada actually charge food vendors more per booth than they do anybody else, because they have a perception that we make more money. And yet I would talk to my friends in aromatherapy, and for what it cost me
Yeah.
in terms of cost of goods versus what they could sell it for, something that costs $2 or $3, they can sell for $24 or $25.
Right.
I can't.
It's
do that.
volume. They don't understand. They don't make the distinction between profit and volume. You can do a lot more volume with candy than you can do aromatherapy. You make a shit ton of money on aromatherapy though.
Yeah. And when you don't need a commercial kitchen for it.
100%. There's a million things you don't need.
Yeah.
Right. So this, how far back does this go? Like this, you said this is 7 years ago when you started this adventure. Is that about
2015? Yeah. So 2015 is kind of when I started it. I opened the store in 2018. Okay. I signed the lease in 2017, but it just took to 2018 to actually get things going.
Open it up, yeah.
To open it up, the way I'd negotiated the contract and when the building was done, that sort of thing. But there was some hard lessons along the way. I worked with a distributor really early on, and they went bankrupt. They didn't even go bankrupt. They just closed down their business after they bought $5,000 worth of product from me.
Oh my.
So that was a hard one where I thought I was going to go down. I thought I was going to, everybody was like, oh, they're great. You should try them. And they would be bugging me. And I was like, I wasn't going to go down the distributor route, but they were really nice guys. And I thought, well, maybe they could do something. Maybe they can help me. My biggest problem, the biggest thing at the beginning was, I was bringing up ingredients in small amounts, right, from the States, particularly organic tapioca syrup. So I was bringing it from California, and I was bringing it up by the clipper. And my brother used to be a customs officer and told me how to clear things. He showed me the paperwork, and so I'd go down and I'd actually clear stuff. And I'd actually, no, you're allowed to do that. You do that.
You can share those secrets because you can make good money on that.
It's a pain in the butt. I have a broken arm.
Trust
it. Yeah. It is the biggest paperwork pain in the butt. But anyway, once I started, I was just like, oh yeah.
Jeanette Miller, former confectionery, now customs broker.
Oh my God.
Found you a new hustle. There, done.
Good money in it. Good money in it.
Anyway, so they and so I was bringing it, and so I needed to start bringing down my cost of goods, obviously, right? And the best way of doing that was to start increasing the amounts that I was purchasing in raw goods, and tapioca syrup being the biggest one. And so that's why I brought a distributor on, is purely for volume. Even though I was doing a loss leader in terms of how much I was making off of them, it would allow me to bring down the cost of goods and then be able to actually benefit better with my remaining customers.
Right.
and direct, direct to consumer sales that I was doing on my website. And that was the other thing too, is coming from my background, I had a website from day one. I had an e-commerce website, and everybody's like, oh, you must be doing so well. And I was like, no, people did not buy food online. It did not matter how many, hey, if you go online and here's the coupon code and you can get free whatever. At every show I was at, it did not matter. There was just nobody buying online in the way that they
Not then.
Not then.
Like
then,
now,
not even
now they'll
that to some degree.
Now they'll sort of buy it.
Yep.
But
still
it's
a
really
tricky commodity, right? It's
yeah.
It's the pandemic, right? The pandemic made you trust branding a little bit more,
right?
Because you're after experiential, and you start to think, okay, you know what, screw it, right? I can spend a little money, and then if it doesn't turn out well, I can rip them on social media and then move on. During the pandemic, it's all amusing, right? But before that, no, I don't think so.
No,
if I didn't try it, why am I going to buy it, right?
I mean, even food wasn't. Food was big, but not big like pandemic big. I mean, pandemic changed everything. I mean, really did. I mean,
100%.
Dramatically changed everything.
As soon as the pandemic hit, I figured I was done in the water. There was no way I was going to survive it. My retail store was done. My landlords were not being kind. My one landlord in my Fairfield factory was being lovely, but my downtown landlords are like, pay it up, doesn't matter. And I went on social media, and I was like, because I'd managed to maintain my social media, and I said, people, I'm done. And the sales literally flooded in. So my sales online, now, of course, I was doing things in the beginning of the pandemic that obviously I would never do. on regular. I was doing home deliveries here in Victoria. I was
Mhm.
literally driving. My husband was actually seconded because of the pandemic to deal with emergency, he does emergency stuff for the province. So I was driving him a half an hour out of town to go to that, and I would start my deliveries
Your
there.
husband, like your husband. Did you even have a husband for 2 years? They're like, hey, so
No.
listen, today, here's the message. Oh, actually, no, this
Believe
isn't
me.
the message. Oh, and tomorrow, we're
Believe
going to
me.
walk back what we said today. And well, wait, what did we say? Can you read back what I just said to you? Because I
It's
don't remember.
amazing.
Like, holy
Oh my
crap.
God.
Like, has he
It was
even
a
slept for
crazy.
two years? Like, holy crap.
Oh, that's not even the half of it. He was hit by a car last year, but that's a whole different story. Anyway, so I started doing home delivery. So, but ultimately what ended up happening was for 2020, my online sales went up by 1,120%.
Yeehaw.
It's
So
awesome,
I
man.
Who
made
cares
this,
about the pandemic 25?
I could not believe, like, I literally, like, it was just ridiculous. Like, it was literally ridiculous. I made more money online than I ever did in my retail store, ever. And I was just blown away. And I was like, oh my, and then, so wholesale dropped off because of retailers, but then it came back with a vengeance. But I had laid off all my staff, and I was just hustling. So I literally worked every single day of 2020, on average 10-hour days, every single day. And I did not have any days off because I was just trying to keep up. I finally brought a friend in, and I just kept saying to her, I should slow down next week. It should be better. And then I wouldn't. And I just kept doing that to her. And then after like
lies, nothing but lies.
4
Wait,
months.
but is this one of the friends who told you that you'd be rolling in cash?
No.
No, I was going to say, otherwise the distillers are right.
Yeah,
So
because otherwise, you know.
She's a smart friend. No,
Okay.
she never did. No, it was kind of funny. But you know, but I also know, you know, I also knew the whole time, like, this is a false economy. This is not going to.
no, it's not reality.
This is not reality. And you know, it's really funny because you guys had the guy from Clearbank on.
Yeah.
Kent.
And, Kent. Yeah, I actually ended up being approached by them. I went down the angel route.
Yeah.
And it did not work out, because what ended up happening was it would have been a good time, but they partnered me with somebody from the shoe world in the US. And the biggest problem for me has been that I've worked in a vacuum. And I think that's why I love you guys' podcast so much, is because the ability to be able to hear what everybody else's stories are, and they're so varied, and to be able to take people that have experience below your skills and above your skills, and on par with your skills, is so incredibly important. And no matter how many, you know, groups that, you know, you should belong to, and peers that you should, you know, connect with, I'd never found that anybody kind of was going down the same route as me, that it related to me. You know, I had people that were like, no, you got to go, you know, you got to start it with venture capitalists, and, you know, just like, oh, the Kiwi chips, Sarah from the Kiwi chips, right?
Sarah.
Like, I was just like, oh,
yeah.
But I also know I would have never done that, because that was never the intention behind my business. My business was supposed to be this flexible small business that I just wanted to have my hands in and feel like I could grow, and feel like I could have an impact on my community and better connect with my community in different ways. And I don't think that everybody does want to build
I don't think you don't have to, you know.
Yeah.
This is sort of I think I was really, really intrigued to have you on, because, you know, Phil and I chatted, and we were saying, I mean, from what we understand, she's profitable.
Yep.
Seems to have her shit together. Like, you know, she's making money. She's got a good thing
going.
And
they're so delicious.
So you think you talk scaling, right? So you talk scaling, and first thing in my head, well, if it's tough to scale, I mean, do you need to scale?
Yep.
I mean, you could always charge a little bit more for your product and sell the same amount and just put more pennies in your pocket.
Yep.
I mean, rent. I mean, welcome to you know, Lower Mainland, Southern BC.
Totally.
I mean, it's just a shit show, right? We all know that.
Yep.
But you've got a business. You've got people online willing to buy.
Yep.
You could do specialty in Victoria all day.
Yep.
Especially now tourists coming back. Granted, especially with COVID, it was different, but your online sales made up for that. Do you know what I mean? So
Yep.
what we were mostly intrigued was thinking, I mean, really, it's tough to find the shitty part to the story to some degree without being in your shoes. So in fairness, that's just me talking as a bystander.
Totally.
I'm not in your shoes.
Yeah.
I don't want to assume anything,
Which
but
but on the surface, you're like, that is the thing, right? Is because
on the surface,
like,
it looks like seriously, what's the
all the
problem?
things that our guests would go, wait, so she has scale.
She can make
has
money.
A dedicated audience. She's got a delicious product. She's got a retail store.
The packaging is nice. It's obviously working. Things are connecting. She gets social. She gets here. So you're thinking, like,
with missteps and everything, it seems like you've made all the right moves.
Exactly.
Yeah. Which is why it's a perfect time to sell. It's a perfect time to sell.
Yeah, fair enough.
Because it's a good business for somebody.
It's a good business because it's profitable. You can, it's there.
Absolutely.
It's doable.
So tell us why it's not for you, because I think that's a really.
Help me on that too, because I'm dying to understand that.
Yeah.
Okay, not to put you on the spot. Put you on the spot.
Okay.
I'm curious. Like, I don't get it.
Because I can make a hell of a lot more money going back to marketing, and I also have the time. Like, my kids are older now, and they are looking after themselves. And my parents are gone. And it's time for me to go back to a career that I actually feel like the career that I actually wanted almost 10 years ago when I left, right? I want to go into an organization that I can be paid well, and that I'm not afraid of working hard. I am not afraid of overtime hours. I never have been. None of my jobs have ever had it. They've never been 9 to 5. That's never been an issue for me. I'm not a.
And you obviously liked it. I mean, it's not a disdain. You didn't leave because it was terrible and you were running.
No, but ultimately, the hours that this job now requires me to do, I physically am getting to an age that I can't necessarily do it for very much longer. I'm starting to get repetitive strain injuries. You know, I can already feel it after, after 5 months of doing caramels and gumdrops and stirring, all that kind of stuff. It gets to a point where I'm like, yeah, I'm feeling it. You know, I tried putting up my tent, so my old market tent on the back deck this weekend, and I had to have my kids come out and help me. And I was like, I can't believe I used to do this on my own. I used to take my market tent and I used to just pop it up, and I just am, I'm 8 years older, you know, and I'm at
that's why you have kids. So don't worry about that part. That's why we all have kids. That's the purpose of kids.
But
free labor somewhere in the house has got to pay off. They got to do something.
I know it's true, but
but age does make things a little interesting, right?
Age is really, and it's really affected me in the past couple of years. I've had, this past year, I've had 2 friends, who have been diagnosed with cancer, and another friend who actually passed away with cancer. And it's just that point of our life when, our friends are starting to talk about retirement, and both Dave and I are like, oh, we're so far from retirement in so many ways because we started our careers late.
Your husband hasn't even been let out yet. He's still like,
no, he's still at home.
But it's just,
I get it.
It's just one of those things that, listen, my background shows that I'm not afraid of change. I'm not afraid of taking risks, but I'm also, I also am not somebody who identifies with their job in the sense of it is not me, if that makes any sense.
No, it makes total sense.
Right. So I don't feel like, being a candy maker is me. It's just my job right now. And I've loved every single minute.
But it's okay to let it go and do something else.
Totally okay to let it go. Totally. Okay.
Honestly, there's nothing wrong with that. Tell you the truth, if there'd probably be a lot more happy business people, quite frankly, if a lot of them had potentially that attitude where, because what happens with a lot of them will end up sinking when they probably could have got out, but you just get too wrapped up into the identity of it or whatever personal reasons you have, and you lose sight of that. It's just a job.
Well, I was curious about it because when we talked to, so I introduced you to Taz Latifi online, right on LinkedIn, but it was a similar conversation because we had talked about, the number of businesses, you kind of like, let's say you stick with this and you fast forward 10 years ish, right? And your kids get into it because mom can't do it anymore, right? All of a sudden it's a family business, but nobody asked the kids if they really wanted to be in a family business, right? And we actually talked to, was it Dominic that was on the show, and we were talking to him about it as well, right? Like, where you kind of like, you realize like, this is a family thing, but nobody asked the kids if they ever wanted to be in it.
When we have
Assume they wanted to do it, right? Like,
right? It's just part of, it's an assumption that, of course you're gonna.
So I'll give you a little bit of family background, is that my parents were both 9-to-5ers. They had the regular jobs, and all three of us kids ended up becoming entrepreneurs. My brother, my one closest brother, my brothers are 10, 11 years older than me. And so my brother's 10 years older than me, started a bike shop when he was 18. And he just sold it last year. He's just retired. So he's had the shop this particular shop for over 35 years. He actually had a shop before that. And it was $1 million business. And he did amazingly well. And his idea was that one of us would take it over, myself or his only son. And neither of us wanted it. He tried selling it to his staff. That worked for a while, and then he had to end up buying it back from them. And I don't think that succession planning and putting it on your family is the right move ever. Because, I could have walked into a bike business that was completely established and
doing well. Yeah, you just had to take it over, right?
Absolutely.
But you want to do it.
But I don't want to do that. And
so why do it?
Exactly. And so, and that was always the thing that I would never do that to my own kids. I would never, ever do that to my own kids. And the one thing I actually tell a lot of my staff when they come in and work for me is, I go, so what are your plans? What are you going to do with your life? And I just say, don't work. Don't be an entrepreneur. It's the hardest. A lot of work. The hardest job
it's a lot of work.
Ever have.
Yeah, it is
the hardest job. The only reason that I could do it was because my husband had a stable job. Right. And so it's
you have to be, I think we've always said that on this show, is you got to be special, right? Because the reward, it's almost all emotional and not really
that's the problem with a lot of
right?
time. You lose the science of it. It becomes emotions.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why I'm impressed with you. I'm kind of still bizarre, but that's okay. But I'm impressed with the fact that you're able to do it, to remove the emotion from it and just say to yourself, I like it. I like it a lot, but it's time.
I had fun doing it, and that's all.
And I'm going to go back and do something I really want.
It's interesting. I actually, it's the first business that I have felt, I've actually felt guilty about closing down. Because I have a customer base that relies on me, which is really interesting. Because I'm an allergy friendly, I don't have the nuts and I don't have the peanuts.
Makes a big difference. It's tough for people to find candies like that. Clean candies is not easy.
And it's getting harder and harder. Like, Phil, I don't know if you have struggled with this, but the distributors here on the island stopped carrying Surf Sweets, and so all of those candies have disappeared. And I worry about this. I worry about our food system right now, to be honest. I really worry that what we're doing is, when I started looking at co-packers, and I've had a few interested buyers, one of them was really great. And he said, okay, so how do I get this manufactured? Right? Like, how do I don't want to manufacture it. I want somebody else. So I just gave him a list of, here's who I'd go after. I talked to everything from small producers to really large ones. And not one of them, called him back. And number two, all of them would remove the allergens. They would have to remove that allergy-friendly side of it.
It's complicated to do.
It is.
Clean shops, unfortunately, which sounds so pathetic to say, but it's true. It's hard.
It's
you need separate buildings practically, because a lot of them still do bread. The bread and butter is the other side.
Yeah,
absolutely. Right. And it's hard to do that.
My son last 2 Halloweens ago, it was just before he started university, and he didn't actually eat any candy. All he did was handle his sister's candy, and that put him in the hospital. Do you know what I mean? Like, so it's craziness, right? Like he didn't actually eat any. He was just helping them sort it.
Right.
And
It's
the
enough.
trace from, so somebody clearly had eaten a Reese's Pieces or something and touched some of the other candies, and that he was like, he knew it right away. He was like, Dad, I gotta go to the hospital. I'm like, you didn't even eat anything. What happened? He's like, I don't know, but I can taste it on my tongue. We gotta go. Right? He had the EpiPen out and everything, and you're just like, wow, this is craziness, right? Like,
and it's so sad. Like, and the interesting thing for me is that the allergy side of it actually started out with just being gluten-free because I had friends that were celiac. And so I had an understanding of what they required in kitchens and how that worked. And as I started sourcing ingredients, I was like, oh, look, there's a lot of gluten-free certified. Okay, this is really easy. And the way that what I manufacture in terms of candy is that it's really down to like 3 main ingredients. So it's actually pretty easy. If you don't have nuts in those 3 main ingredients, you're done, right?
Actually, it's a lot easier business to have less. Less is more, right?
Exactly. And that was part of it. People are like, oh, why don't you do chocolate? And I was like, that's one more ingredient.
It's more ingredients. It's another complication. It's a whole different complication.
Like I was like, no. Like everything that I produce is actually in the same pots. It's just different temperatures, and it might add a fat or it might add a jelly. Like there's different things, but it's really ultimately comes down to like 5 basic ingredients. Like it's not very many. So making it nut free and peanut free was pretty easy because all I had to do was source, the base raw ingredients.
Exactly.
Of things and make sure. And then
had to go to Salt Lake City.
Yeah, which we still don't quite understand. For apparently everything. Sounds like everything's in Utah. So
it's so weird about Utah. There's it's just like Germany. Like why does Squish get all their, like, if you look at the 2 main big candy manufacturers, not manufacturers, candy brands in Canada, they're all from Europe because it's all about German candies. It's all coming out of Europe.
But I think I get it. Like, I think, like big or small, like one is, one stars and then an employee sees how to do things different. They split out, a local employee, and then you set yourself up. The big companies have the same thing. Like my alma mater, J&J, like there were 3 Johnson brothers, right? And then one of them went, I don't really like the way you guys do that. I'm setting up my own. And he set up SCJ, right? So like, but they're all based out of like the same, New Jersey, Pennsylvania area, right? Like,
and
so
over there, if the Swiss were doing something, the Germans board. When the Germans do something,
so
the Austrians board.
I get it.
The Italians board. They're all together, right?
Salt Lake is a little weird, but
I still don't get Salt Lake, but that's a whole different.
I want to ask you about, because we're getting close to the end, but I want to ask you. So the business, you've been very level-headed about. Look, like it's time for me to do something different. What how do you feel about that? Like, so this thing, like, are you happy to sell this to whoever kind of shows up with the right price tag? Is there, is this like, I guess the question is this like your first car where you want to make sure it goes to a good home? Or is this the, kind of like, I had fun driving the Range Rover, but it's okay to go?
So the selling process has been very interesting. We've talked, the winding down versus the selling conundrum has been very interesting to wrap my head around. So there's 2 sides of that. Number one is that who do I sell it to? Well, so far I've had 65 people interested in looking and have all looked at it, and I would say 60 of them are venture capitalists.
I would guess that anyway.
That's not surprising.
That doesn't surprise me.
So they want a turnkey. They want a turnkey, right? They want something that they're just buying they're looking for smart sweeps. Like that's really
I know. Whatever.
Right? They're looking for the turnkey factory that they can just go, great, let's do an infusion and we're done. So none of them have been, they all want me, right? They want me to stay on. I had one guy who was like willing to like, I'll build out your dream factory. I just need to know that you're going to stay on. I was like, yeah,
I'm sure that all of them, when you start opening, they're like,
exactly.
Oh.
Exactly.
And you do what? Oh.
No.
With those 2 hands? hands?
It
Oh.
How many employees do you have? Oh, no. One of them's your kid?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
no.
That's how 60
Exactly.
conversations went.
Exactly. They weren't
Okay.
conversations. They're all just online. They have to
Yeah.
register and all that kind of stuff.
But the other five,
But the other
anyway,
five.
But the other five, and so what, so one of them, was a realtor who thought that he was going to buy me my dream factory and that I was going to operate it. And I was like, listen, this is outside of my wheelhouse, totally outside of my wheelhouse. Like, and to be honest, I don't think that you know anything of what you're talking about. Like, this is so far from what his experience would be. And so I was like, thank you, but no, thank you. The other guy, again, wanted to actually build out he wanted to do co-packers. So I helped him, but we couldn't get any answers, could not get any answers. So that's probably not going to happen. Another guy, and what I'm finding really interesting is that it's all men. I have to say that. I don't know what it is, but I have not had one woman that's interested. And to me,
come on, ladies.
Where do you have
a women-owned business?
But Jeanette, where are you marketing it? Like, where are you talking about it so that?
So it's through a local broker, and so they place advertising online. They do most of it. They have a list that they send out to. They evaluated it professionally. They actually evaluated it for way more than what I actually listed it in the original price, and I dropped it even further because ultimately I know I had one guy who was interested, who had a manufacturing facility, and he told me what I knew, which is, he said, your business is too expensive to scale.
And at that point, you're saying, I agree with you. And
I totally agree with you.
This conversation ain't going to work. We need someone who just wants to have a really good business and doesn't give a flying shit about scaling. It's not their gig, right?
And so that's the next conversation. That's supposedly what I have as my next conversation this week, is that, it's little bits and pieces of, conversations, but this kind of brings it around to, like, I'm already starting to wind down.
Which makes it a little harder to do things as well.
Harder, right? Because I'm running out of packaging. I'm not buying another pallet of organic tapioca syrup. I had such a phenomenal first quarter. My sales were up by over 25%. That I went through way more ingredients, way more tapioca syrup than I ever thought I would. I'm literally running out of packet. Like, I have no more.
This feels so wrong to sell and close. I'm sorry. It just feels so wrong.
I think you should run a camp.
There's a couple things. First off, the reason I think you get probably too many men, or way too many men, if it's brokers, and especially in commercial real estate, and that side is way too men dominated. Yeah, it just is. It's just, it's still, unfortunately, a man's game and a man's world. It's a really shitty world. I mean,
we have to be able to help you sell this.
There's got to be a way.
We've got to be able to put out an episode. Well, maybe we put this out. I'm not joking. So do we put this out Thursday?
No, put it out like this week. So you know what? Why can't someone
talking Thursday.
Like Jessica, Analea, like they've got Patrice. They all know these people.
The big thing is that somebody has to have a kitchen facility, and the big thing right now is kitchen facilities, right?
Wait, but
you have stuff there, like they can.
But then they're moving to Victoria, and we know how.
But okay, wait.
There's a lot of people that come out of the Lower Mainland.
But the entrepreneur that really wants this business should be someone who wants a local based business,
absolutely,
who wants something artisan and craft, that has high interaction with their customer base. And is willing to do untraditional, right? So like from what we've heard from you tonight is this isn't going into food, mass drug, or any of those sort of places. It's not going to work.
It doesn't need to.
It doesn't need to be there, right? No. It can stay in the subscription boxes and the gift boxes and things like that.
And the store and do a good business.
And local, and it'll do a wonderful, wonderful business.
And you can do craft shows if you feel like it, and you can do one of a kind if you feel like it. But you choose which one.
I don't think those are selling points.
There, you know what?
No. Sorry,
I gotta tell you,
when you get there,
people, listen, as somebody who, yes, absolutely, that's part of the reason why I opened a retail store, is because I didn't want to go down that route anymore.
Yeah.
But there are people who thrive off of those. They love
I
those
just don't think
interactions.
I just don't think that if you run a retail store, you want to be in those places. Like
No,
I
if
think
you run a
I think
retail
it's one or
store,
the other. So
no,
I think the
agree.
people who sell taffy at the
Yeah,
one
I
of a
agree.
kind shows, they love being at the one of a kind shows, and they love or maybe not taffy,
That
but
being said, when you look at some of the key ones, if you look at the Newfoundland chocolate and you look at the Alicia's Confections, who do really well, they both have retail stores. So if you
But
actually
tell you
look
guys,
at
you're in a
them,
city you're in a city where a retail, okay, 2 years, last year's been shitty.
anyway,
You're in a city that has huge tourism, right? And
Yep.
you're close to a city that no matter how expensive you think it is where you are, it's way worse here. And there's a lot of people that would like to get out of this shithole. I love Vancouver, but to get off here and get on the island. First off, we still get all the smoke from the Okanagan. You want to talk about triple net leases that are outrageously ridiculous? Come to Vancouver.
Oh, no.
Like that's commercial leases on beyond
Yeah.
steroids. So
Yeah.
there's people here that would think going to Victoria is really not the worst thing on the planet. If anything, it's a good move. You sell here, you can still buy there. Expensive, but not as bad as the city. Like I know what our house is worth here, and I know what my house would be worth there.
So
it's different.
So I'm doing something different. We're gonna put this post out. Like it's May 24th. We're gonna put this out.
Let's put it out this week.
What day is it? Tuesday today?
Tuesday.
So we'll put it out Thursday.
Or Monday. Oh,
we'll
this
put
week.
It
Yeah,
out,
the Thursday.
No, we'll put it out Thursday. So it'll be out on the weekend,
and then we'll push the hell out of it.
We'll push the hell out of it and see if we can't find you someone.
There's gotta be.
Talk to anybody.
There's gotta be.
Anybody.
There's gotta be somebody.
No, but there's gotta be someone who really wants out of the city. Even like there's people that it would be a great gig. It really would.
Yep.
You've got an established, profitable business.
It's a wonderful business that's proven. You've got a base. You've got a customer base. This is about, but this is like, because we ask this all the time, right? Is like, does it need to scale, right? And the answer is you scaled it as far as it can go. Mm-hmm. If somebody likes this base, this is a wonderful way to,
nothing wrong with it.
This is a lot of fun. So
if I was 10 years younger, I would not be shutting down the business.
But you also don't. Absolutely. But you also don't need to defend yourself. Like you've done a wonderful job of building the business, and you're ready to be able to go do something else.
Exactly.
And that's really the end of it, right? Like the journey is the journey.
Do you know how many? Think how many would give their left arm to be in your position? Because most don't get there because the businesses don't work.
So
or they
for anyone still listening, Jeanette will take a left arm.
Yes, I will.
A left arm, and you can have it.
You can have it. Well, at a good price.
I am willing to do whatever it takes.
I think there's so much potential. I can seriously, if someone really would, this is what I was
thinking.
Listen,
don't call us if you actually get a left arm.
No arms.
Yeah, you don't want to talk about feet washing up on shores.
No, thank you. No, thank you. No, thank you.
How cool if for a young couple between 25 and 35.
Yeah.
Whether whether they came in and worked together, and he has the manufacturing up in Sydney, and the other one he stays in the store, or she's up in Duncan and she's working the store.
But don't forget the store is gone. Don't forget that store is gone. But ultimately, I do think that
there's so much commercial real estate in both our cities.
No, but you've got the model for it, so there's really no. It's not a failure. Proven. It's tried and true. There's success there. So
100%.
Like you think of Glenson and Mimi who run the store. Like we had this couple on that I know that ran a restaurant they ran it for like 20 years, right? They put their kids through college, and they it's not different. It's not like they can scale the restaurant, right? The restaurant is the restaurant, right? Do you know what I mean? Like, so this is a very, very good business that you just need to think of it different. Like everyone thinks, oh, you're going to be Nestle or whatever. No, you don't.
Yeah. No, you don't.
Right? You don't, right? Because restaurants do this all the time. They do it local. They have a base and they make it work, right? Like,
but the growth
and they
could
make
even
money
be just
at it, right?
So the growth could be just two stores. Maybe you do two stores in Victoria. You don't have to grow. You don't have to be a multinational. You don't have to be doing trillions of dollars. You can make a great living and actually really enjoy it.
I totally agree. I got very obsessed with the saltwater taffy thing. And one of the companies I found was this
it shows because
I know. But I found this saltwater taffy company in Colorado. and it has been around for like 60 years. And literally they don't even have an automated, they still have the old cash register. They still have the dinging thing. They have all the machines that were originally there. It's only gone through 2 families, and they have the same flavors. They've never expanded. They've never done anything. It's the same setup for the past 60 years. And I was like, that is the type of business.
Some of the
That's
best,
so cool.
Some of the best businesses are.
It's like those restaurants that don't change. Maybe they get a fresh paint. Maybe the chairs change a little bit because you can't. You can only sit.
I was in Hawaii in
long.
March, and I went to Leonard's for malasadas, and like malasadas are Portuguese donuts, right? And they are like they're different than donuts because they're high in egg concentration. But when I got there, it's like straight out of the 50s, right? Like they still got the lit up bulbs and the like all the like, and the menu's the same, and it's amazing, right? Like why change it? It's like
exactly
it works. So
yeah.
okay,
works,
so Jeanette,
like it, do it.
Okay.
We'll put you on the.
We'll find you someone. If people want to find you or people want to offer you money for your business,
you know what? They can email me. They could go to my website and email me directly.
Okay.
But if you honestly, I think if you look up to Suite online, you might be able to Google. It will probably direct you to my website. I was thinking it might come up with the business profile. Just come to me.
To Sweet Confections, right?
We'll
Sweet.ca. We'll put the
we post.
We'll put the email in. Please don't send any arms. We were just kidding, or feet, or any organs of any sort.
Exactly.
But if you want to throw your visa in a mail, in a letter envelope, that's fine. Jeanette will take that.
Mail,
really? I'd have a good limit, but that's okay.
Thank you guys. I really appreciate it.
I'm glad you came on.
Talk about some of the other things I thought were going to be so fascinating, which is the gift market. But I'm.
Oh my God, we haven't even like you have to come back. Like you have to come back. First we sell the business, then you come back, and we can talk about that again. But like, holy crap, right?
I tell you why I love that. Thanks. Because we do have a lot of people that do come on that could do that, but just don't know it or don't know how to do it.
They don't think about it. They don't know how to navigate it.
Get through the summer, get through the sale, and we'll have you back on in the fall.
Well, I was listening to the gift box woman from the Sweet Life.
Right.
Yeah.
Sweet box. The Sweet
Carrie.
Box. Carrie. Yeah. I was listening to her the other night, and I was just like, yep. Totally know this. Yep.
Yeah,
totally.
but I'd love to. It's when we're due for another story.
These
like that
caramels. Oh, I've got the blurry thing on, but the caramels. The caramels. That's all I was thinking about. It was like, Carrie needs to have these in her box. Like, oh my God, these are so good.
Yeah,
I'm gonna have some gummies. I got a few left.
They're lightweight too. That's another thing about the gift box business. It have to be lightweight.
Yeah, it's true.
It's a good gig, man.
It's true.
It's a good gig.
Anyway,
Jeanette,
thank you guys. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Take care of
yourself. It's so nice to meet you. Keep us updated. Tell us what happens.
Yeah, let's know what's going on.
For sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I will.
Okay.
For sure.
Okay. Awesome. Still hang on.
Yeah.
Jeanette,
thanks. Yeah.
Thanks.
Bye, Jeanette.
Thanks. Bye.
Ciao. Wow.
She's so wonderful.
She's so much energy. Holy shit.
Just
I
can't believe somebody buy this. For the love of God, somebody buy this.
Well, you know what I find funny more than anything? There's so many businesses now for sale that probably should be for sale, right? Because they're probably not in the right hands. And they probably should be for sale, but they don't necessarily should be bought because they're not in a good spot. This is an actual viable, proven, profitable business. Like seriously.
Yeah, somebody needs to buy.
I'm surprised someone from the lower mainland for sure. This city's gotten so freaking expensive. Not that Victoria is cheap, but it's cheaper than this city. And it'd be such a great move for somebody to go, especially if you're again, I could just picture a young couple where both sort of work it, where it could be really, really cool. And you could carve out a really nice existence. Right? Really. Yeah, and just don't go down the taffy rabbit hole like Jeanette did. Just stay out of that one.
Might be interesting.
You're gonna be in Utah,
dude. It's actually an interesting spin
it's
on
very
the
cool. It's all
podcast.
Cool,
like all of these kind of like candy or like retail rivalries is interesting.
I love
the whole world is like
it's nuts.
people who launch stuff and then counter launch stuff, and then like.
Well, when she was going through, remember, it's like the Twix commercial. One brother did right side, one brother did left side.
Yeah, I know.
It's sort of the okay, whatever.
Yeah, it's cool,
anyway,
man.
It was all good, man.
Anyway, we'll put this out special episode. Hopefully,
yeah, that's a good idea.
Hopefully, we can
run it this week, and then we'll share
Jeanette.
it. We'll share it with we'll share it with a bunch of the folks we know.
Yeah. We'll
right.
See if we can help her out.
You know, Anna Lay and all of them, and Jessica and Patrice are all connected with really strong women groups. And the reason we're saying is because, I mean, it's only, she said only men seem to be looking at it, which makes
yeah. But I think it's just exposure. I think we need to get this out.
It's a tough gig, commercial real estate, buddy. I'm sorry, it's not.
But you know what? Like we have a group. The group the audience that listens to us are very entrepreneurial.
I think so. I think this is doable.
And I honestly think like there are probably some CPG people who are thinking about like redoing their next careers. And
absolutely, what a great way.
This is not a bad one, right? So
exactly. Anyway, very cool.
Yeah, very cool.
Okay, I'm gonna have a coffee. I've got another meeting at 8:30. So
okay. Thank you for listening. And stay on for just a second. I want to show you something. Okay.